るけど。
Oh, wow. Hey, much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Thanks for tuning in. As promised, we're going to continue reading from this book. As you guys see here, the mystic symbol. Jehovah. Mark of the Michigan Mound Builders. All right, remember, they found these ancient tablets in the mounds in Michigan, in Detroit, a lot of them. We're going to go on to chapter 3 today. So, page 24 says here Michigan Relics, chapter 3. What made this material suspect? What was it that the academic community apparently recognized or failed to recognize that instantly arose their animosity? Why was it that one man alone had been charged with fabrication of more than 3,000 artifacts? Why would he have buried them in 17 counties in Michigan, many far removed from any habitation? Why, if only one mound in 8 or 10 yielded a specimen, would he have gone to the extra labor of constructing mounds with nothing inside? How long would it take for one man to manufacture 3,000 articles in 4 different substances, slate, clay, stone, and copper, transport them to isolated areas where no roads existed, bury each one in a mound, and then construct additional mounds in which he put nothing? These are questions that the academic community failed to answer, but must be answered. So remember what he's going over, in the last chapters. They're trying to say these are forgeries. They're trying to say, oh, one person did this. He must have done 3,000 of these things and then went somehow to all these different places and buried them when nobody ever noticed them or shown any evidence of human disturbance. So this is what they're saying. We got to answer these questions. We can't just ignore it. Each and every artifact unearthed from these Michigan mounds bore some type of writing: Greek, Egyptian, Phoenician, or Sumerian, or Assyrian, right? That's really Assyrian script, as observed by Professor Morris Jastrow. Could this writing not then have been deciphered as was the Rosetta Stone or Cretan Linear B? Apparently, no Champollion nor vengeance fired by burning curiosity arose. Records failed to reveal serious study of the writing. Yet many outstanding philologists or faculty members acquainted with these artifacts and well versed in ancient languages, particularly Greek, either apathetic or lacking an inquisitive mind, displayed no interest in decipherment, even granting the material to be fraudulent. In no instance other than Professor Russell's article has the record disclosed objective scholarly study of the objects or the writing for what it might be worth, good or bad. Out of this welter of ignorance matter, many strange and seemingly unrelated artifacts stood forth, many objects for which no known use could be assigned. Material substance ranged from crude unbaked clay to polished copper, stone, and finely worked slate, lovingly smoothed by some skilled craftsman. Written characters incised on each article intermingled with drawings. Some had been scratched on slate, others stamped on clay. Spearheads, thinly beaten copper sandals, chisels, coins, and mechanical drawing instruments represented specimens fashioned of copper. A mummy case, pipes, and bowls had been modeled in clay. Many tablets, slate, clay, stone, and copper, contained row after row of regularly formed characters and some unknown writing. Plate 1, tablet after tablet, was entirely covered with them. Plate 2 and 2A. No single piece had failed to bear the 3 characters, wedge-shaped marks, noted both by Professor Kelsey and Professor Starr, the famous so-called mystic symbol. As remember, in the first part of this, first couple chapters, they were saying they found like a logo on all these tablets, the same symbol. They all had the same symbol, which was a cuneiform style of the Most High's name, Yahweh, or the tentagrammation, YHW. a cryptic sign, which set this group so singularly apart from any other group. Of specimens still in existence, by far the larger proportion were slate. Clay objects disintegrated or became broken with mishandling, since comparatively few of those once known now remain. Known copper tablets and objects number less than a scant handful, although more than 200 copper pieces once had been catalogued by Dean Savage in his own collection. In size, relics range from stone tablets 4 feet in length, weighing upwards of 60 pounds, to tissue-thin copper coins 3/4 of an inch in diameter, weighing a fraction of an ounce. The greater number are small, varying from an ounce to a few pounds, pots, pies, jars, altars, scimitars, axes, hammers, crosses, chisels, amulets, and a motley assortment of other paraphernalia. Countless slate tablets bespoke an advanced technical knowledge which most clay articles lacked. Clay crumbled due to its inferior gritty quality, sun-dried, not kiln-baked. Copper which had been hardened by cold forging fell short of the craftsmanship. All right, so we're gonna look at a tablet right here real quick. Let me zoom in. You guys can see all these symbols, right? All these writing, what they're saying appears to be Paleo Hebrew, Greek, Phoenician, what they call in Paleo Hebrew, Assyrian, cuneiform. You guys remember, they're finding this in the Michigan mounds in Michigan. You can see the pentagrammation they're talking about right here in the middle, the mystic symbol. It's all over the place. Look at the swastika right here, guys. You see that? Or what we think is a swastika, but that's an ancient symbol. We had that symbol here in the Americas, in the true old world. All right. So again, this is inscriptions found on these ancient tablets that were found in the mounds of Michigan in the Detroit area as well. All right, so that was plate 2, as it says there. And here's another one. Here goes the logo that we were talking about earlier. And as you guys can see, all the symbology, all the inscriptions. A lot of people that know about ancient languages can recognize many of these inscriptions, this writing. And this is what they're calling a forgery because it doesn't fit their out of Africa, out of Mesopotamia theories, that fake history they gave us in school. Again, America's the true old world. It doesn't fit their narrative, so they automatically disregard it. They lock these up in a basement in a museum and say it's forgeries, yet they're holding on to them, right? So that was plate 2A. Again, this shows line over the letters IH as indicating abbreviations of Jesus. That's what they're saying, right? So conspicuous on slate and stone items, as polished surfaces of granite indicated familiarity with handling of hard stone. Each polished face glistened with a sheen that could only have come from countless hours of ancient rubbing in preparing slate or copper tablets. These unknown workmen apparently used both saw and file, teeth marks not rubbed down, scarified surfaces, as do file marks left on beveled edges. Baraga, at the head of the Keweenaw Bay on Michigan's Upper Peninsula, had been traced as the spot from which slate had been taken. Stone came from a quarry near Amherst, Ohio, while copper had been mined from pits in and around Calumet and Houghton, as well as on Isle Royale. And that's from ancient times. They've been mining there, right? You know about that, right? Imagination and artistic ability went into the creation of these relics, both as to shape and design. Pieces unfamiliar to us apparently had been devised for ritualistic purposes. We can puzzle nothing out of their meaning from their shapes. On the other hand, various items unquestionably denoted their use by their shape. Stone and slate shuttles may well have been the tool of some tent maker or weaver. They may likewise have been intended as a memorial to one who had died, and this shuttle had been left as a remembrance of his craft. Shuttles had hole about 1/4 of an inch in diameter bored lengthwise through the center, as well as smoothly beveled edges with notches ends preventing slippage of cord. The amount machine-like professional skill that had gone into fabrication of these polished articles would have prevented even the finest silken thread from being snagged, so smooth were they. Copper spearheads and scimitars numbered into scores. All right, so it would take a lot of work just to go through the trouble of creating forgeries just to put a joke on somebody, because this is what they're saying it's just pranksters. All this work for what? Illustrations imply witness what looks to have been one long, continuous battle with broken spears protruding from the dead and dying who lies strewn over the battlegrounds. Gruesome and blood-curdling scenes leave nothing to one's imagination. Trying to reconstruct one tragedy that had taken place in this far-off wilderness, which left a headless body shown at the feet of a man with raised scimitar, one can only assume that some heinous crime had been committed. Carpenters' and architects' tools of copper show considerable wear. Protractors and squares, cold chisels and saws, surprisingly undistinguishable from those in use today. Hammers such as we would purchase in our hardware stores, and incredible as it may seem, a copper compass with unadjustable legs. And that's the figures they're going to show. Essential tools had been hardened, steel hard, ringing with an unmistakable vibrating ping, decorative or ceremonial objects, most of which were quite malleable. Objects such as bracelets and crowns lacked resonance, given a dull leaden tone. By far the greater number of relics consisted of tablets, in all substances clay, copper, stone, and slate. These tablets fell into three major categories: those completely covered with writing, those containing writing together with pictorial illustration, and those entirely pictorial with only a word or two added. Tablet inscriptions, like the Maya glyph or Inca quipu, remain undeciphered. Yet all characters were of uniform style in that like characters repeated themselves on tablets, whether recovered near Wyman or 150 miles away in the Detroit region. Whosoever did the inscribing, whether one person or many, followed an established pattern indicating a common language familiar to a group, communicating with each other by written word, understood over a widely extended area. As noted by Professor Jastrow, letters were a horrible mixture of ancient Greek, Phoenician, cuneiform, or Egyptian hieroglyph. Yet Coptic had its origin in similar fashion, fusion of Egyptian with later Greek. Few early writings were pure anything, for all people borrowed from one another by way of commercial intercourse, depending on mutual convenience of understanding. Insofar as mixtures of letters and words are concerned, English itself presents an excellent example. Everyday words are as kindergarten borrowed from the German, garage from French, smorgasbord from Swedish, pronto, fiesta, and siesta from Spanish. Why then should a mixture of Phoenician, Greek, cuneiform, or hieroglyphic provoke sarcasm? Various tablets written in an ancient Semitic manner, from right to left, commingled with inscriptions written bostrofedon-wise, that is, the first line read from right to left, the second from left to right, the third from right to left, and so on. Bostrofedon means as the ox plows, up one line and down the next. Bostrofedon writing is characteristic of Eastern Mediterranean countries from earliest times, and one writing Phoenician letters might well have been expected to have written Bostrofedon manner. All right, so real quick, I'm gonna go up here. There's a couple of artifacts here they got. So it's figure 2, figure 3. This is what they were talking about earlier. Slate shuttles, and then we got a copper compass and a copper hammer. Do you guys understand what we're finding here? In ancient times in Michigan, we got a copper compass, a compass for the architects, right? To measure, for the mathematicians, so they can measure, huh? Or create perfect circles. That's very interesting. Continues, says, of the second group, tablets containing both pictures and writing, like the three major groups themselves, fell into three general groups: biblical, battle scenes, and calendar records. Bible stories, mainly Old Testament, appealed most strongly to these artists, the majority of whom seemed obsessed with the legend of Noah and his ark. All right. Folklore, the typified reliance placed on God's promise to keep his covenant with Noah. The creation tower of Babel and confusion of tongues never faltered in portraying scenes, detail of which can be read today in the Old Testament. A close acquaintanceship with legendary material ranging from Abraham to the Siddiqu's bird that spoke with the tongues of humans associated with the confusion of tongues at the Tower of Babel. Precise legends and letters occupying an identical position on each Noah tablet, whether inscribed on slate or copper, and whether found in northern Michigan or 250 miles south near Detroit. One peculiar thing stood out. Even though the letters be a mixture, the mixture within itself appeared consistently uniform. The writing, therefore, must have been in common usage in the day when it was written, and the legend together with the biblical drawing familiar to members of the community. The third group, calendars, again uniformly contain 13 months and read counterclockwise, as was true above the Near Eastern and Oriental countries. Just like on plate 3 it says here, and sides with the delicate line of a metallic compass. Each of the 13 segments fell into equal divisions, normally divisions not possible without the use of some type of protractor. No attempts has been made as yet with reference to dating these calendars, although the matter has been submitted to those who study calendars of this particular period of time without result. All right, so let's back up. We can see a plate 3 again. They're saying there's a calendar in here and everything. So first, here's the Yahweh, the Most High's name, the logo, the mystic symbol they're calling in cuneiform style, what appears to be like Egyptian style drawings. But they're wearing like turkeys or peacocks, instead of a snake. Well, I'm gonna show you guys that. And then we got, this scene right here. You guys see? And then what appears to be like a calendar is what they're saying. With the 13 months and going counterclockwise, just like these ancient cultures of the other side of the world, supposedly, right? And here goes the logo again. But very, very interesting. As you guys can see, they're finding this in Michigan. They swept this under the rug. They never told us about any of this. This would have proved America's the true world, or at least connected to it, and that it was very advanced in ancient times here. All right, sample of calendar of 13 months. Circular figures, however, were not all calendars. Some had been divided into 12 sections illustrating what appeared to be signs of the zodiac. Signs of the zodiac, with a history lost in antiquity, represent many of the oldest symbols that have come down to us. Symbols of Cancer, Taurus, Libra can be identified on our plates. Antedating by 1,000 years the classic period of Rome, a large zodiac once existed painted on the walls of the Temple of Dendera in Egypt. In Babylon, as far back as the time of Nebuchadnezzar, boundary stones depicted zodiacal allegory. Two other circular forms, neither calendar nor zodiac, puzzle one. At first glance, these two look to be sundials, but a closer study reveals no normal time sequence had been drawn, although a pencil-like tube of copper had been inserted and a hole cut in the center for insertion. It seems in all probability that someone had fashioned a unique type of gnomon, an ancient reckoning device commonly used by mariners. While the deluge story received a major portion of attention from artists, other well-established incidents had not been neglected, for we find unexpected detail throughout this maze of unassorted matter. In the upper corner of plate 4, two winged figures protectively flutter, reminiscent of the cherubim in Exodus 25, 18, and 20, all right? Turned toward each other, with their wings spread out above, just like it says in Exodus. From the Near East also comes the stylized symbol of the winged figure shown on plate 5, which compares favorably with the more ancient representation of the Assyrian god Ashur, known by Kiera. Remember, Ashur is literally Ashur, the son of Shem, who is the progenitor of the Assyrians. Ashur. One of the more provocative plates depicts a series of pictures showing a circular platform, bearings on which the platform rotated, a belt-driven shaft, an apparent grinding operation coupled with heat treatment. Fascinating, would it not be to speculate, or whether this might have been Michigan's first introduction to moonshine? Or, on the other hand, it pictured an early metallurgical smelting operation. It could have been either. In the final scene, a man is shown drinking from a cup. Does he sample a new batch of beer, or does he drink a fatty substance essential when refining ore? Medieval metallurgical processes shown so magnificently in Herbert and Lou Hoover's translation of Georgius Agricola de Re Metallica bear a close resemblance to the general scheme pictured on our tablet. Metallurgists from earliest times drank melted butter or some analogous substance to absorb poisonous fumes thrown off during refining operations. One might ponder long over whether this be beer or melted fat. Huh. So this is what they're depicting in this tablet. Let me go back. We kind of skipped some. So again, this is plate 4, 2 win figures, Exodus 25, 18 to 20. All right, 2 win figures, like right here. You guys see that on the top right corner? And then you got the bird going down. Remember about the bird going down? And they got those in the Christian churches, right? The Holy Spirit. Dodge the hijack. And then here's another circle. They're saying, remember, not all are calendars. This might be the Zodiacs, he's saying. So plate 4, 2 win figures. So this is what we already saw. And then we got another plate here. Again, look at the ancient writing, right? Now look at this. In the temple, you got what appears to be like a sphinx. You see that? 2 sphinx with the mystic symbol, the Most High's name. And they're doing something here. And some more tablets here, as you guys can see. Very interesting, amazing that they're finding this in Michigan and Detroit and all that, and they never told us that, guys. They're hiding this from us. They want us to keep thinking, you know, that everything's coming out of Africa or over there in Mesopotamia, but it was all over here. This is the proof right here. They've been hiding. This is plate 5, winged figures, moonshine or copper refining. Moonshine or copper refining. Look at them drinking and smoking and all that, and or do metallurgy is what he's saying. Still another enigmatic sketch traces out a volcanic eruption with rocks shooting skyward and convulsed bodies thrown over the ground. Plate 6. Again, one might ask, who in Michigan suffered through so horrible a nightmare? Michigan has no volcanoes. Illustrating such a catastrophe, one must himself of necessity have lived through such a phenomenon. This is not something to be conjured up out of an artist's imagination. He would not have seen it in Michigan. What might well prove to be one of the more important of the tablets shows a schoolroom, an assembly, a room or church of some sort. Plate 7. A teacher, who looks to be a woman, stands beside a lectern. Placed on the lectern is a scroll, on which writing appears and to which she is pointing. With a pointer in her other hand, the instructor points to a blackboard, apparently indicating that information on the blackboard corresponds to that on the scroll, and had been transcribed on the board so that all might read at one and the same time. As can be observed, information written on the blackboard was set down in several different types of characters, apparently to accommodate a mixed group. In passing, it might be noted that in synagogues from ancient days, the Torah, or sacred scroll, traditionally combined with characteristic pointers such as noted here. From the nature of the material on the blackboard, it might be inferred that the lesson being taught was that of their migration. The history of the migration for a ship can be seen. If that assumption has merit, then this plate alone might well give us the answer to the entire collection. Since a fairly good-sized audience closely follows the pointer, we might understand that the entire community could read and write. The whimsical artist executing this tablet betrayed his keen sense of humor, a matter conspicuously lacking on other tablets. He portrayed no stiff, formal audience. Instead, he placed 2 small boys sitting with their class on a hard bench, frantically waving their hands, bursting with impatience to be recognized. Notice, too, a large group of elders standing at the right apparently what might amount to a pre-Columbian parent-teacher association. All right, so let's go to the tablets, they're kind of talking about. So here's the one with what appears to be a volcano eruption. All right, some writing on the floor, volcanic eruption. Then we got what he's saying is a professor. Look at that. He's holding the stick. He's showing them the writing, the story. There's a ship in there, maybe a history lesson. Who's this? There's people over here learning, raising their hand and all that. That's what he was just talking about. Isn't this amazing, guys? They're finding this in Michigan, right? They're finding this in Michigan. So continues says, from this rather brief outline, some slight appreciation might be gained of inscriptions covering the 3,000 or more relics that formerly comprised a major portion of 7 large collections of this Michigan material. Pronounced by the daily press as the most colossal hoax of the century, one man alone, James Scotford, stands accused by the academic community of forgery, fabricating more than 3,000 specimens. No explanation as to how he might have accomplished so prodigious a feat has ever been offered. All right. So literally, if they were to take this to court, they would lose. They have no proof of that. They're just saying that to disregard it, and so people can just not think about it and, oh well, they said it's a forgery, so let me not look into it. All right, so that was the end of this chapter 3. Again, this was just a really quick reading of chapter 3. We're going to continue on the book. All right, just wanted to go ahead and just keep this idea fresh and read chapter 3 since we read chapters 1 and 2 already. And again, this is amazing. Just look at this image right here before we go. We got somebody teaching the history of ancient America and its people in a Michigan tablet found in the mounds, right? Wow. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this quick reading, chapter 3. Again, we're just trying to gather the content so we can have future presentations and break this down a lot more in detail with so many sources already recorded. Appreciate you guys taking the time to hear me read out real quick. I'll give you your day back. I might go ahead and drop another video later on. So look out for that. Thanks for all the support. Thank you to my patrons. Thank you to my channel members. Thank you for everybody who supports and has donated. You guys are holding me up. I really, really appreciate that. Much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Wow.